everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. All right, so we have the new moon in Pisces coming up on February 28th. That's a Friday. And with it, there's a big stellium happening in the sign of Pisces. We've got the sun, the moon, Mercury, the outer planets of Saturn and Neptune, and they're all conjunct to the North Node, which is also in Pisces. So there's a lot of Piscean energy that is coming out. And if you're seeing this before the 28th, it's starting to build already, but it really does hit that pinnacle on the new moon of the 28th. And by the way, there will be a spirit circle that day if you'd like to join me. We're going to be doing the water vessel ritual, which I also do on Insight Timer. So if the time zone is not good for you, because the spirit circle is at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I do host a water vessel ritual on Insight Timer live at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. So there's two ways that you could join me in working with this new moon energy. They're both in the description below. I'd love to have you join us. Both of them offer something for you to work with manifesting with this very potent and very spiritual new moon energy. So I hope to see you there. All right, so let's get back to all this Piscean energy and talk about what it's going to feel like as we're moving through it, and then hear the message from the team, because it's an interesting combination. So with the Piscean energy, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, of the 12 houses of the zodiac in that circle, before you start the cycle again. And if you can look at the zodiac circle with starting with Aries, ending with Pisces, it sort of tells the story of sort of a human evolution from a baby all the way through death, which is where Pisces sits. Pisces rules the 12th house as well. And so this house has to do with sort of the endings of something, the end of a cycle, a karmic clearing and rebalancing, but it also talks about the other side of the veil, moving into the non-physical. And so when you're in the sign of Pisces, it's a very intuitive sign, and it pierces the veil, meaning it's able to sense what's on the other side of it, that this is not the end of the journey, but rather maybe the end of this leg of the journey and the beginning of another. And so when you're in that sign, when you're in that energy, one of the main themes that Pisces is really good at understanding is our oneness, the concept of oneness, the concept of all that is, that we are all incorporated together, right? It sees the bigger picture in that sense. And because of that, it's a very spiritual energy that comes from this sign. And so that's its positive side, is this knowing of something bigger, its sense of oneness and connection with all that is, and the desire to pursue that is very strong with the sign of Pisces. Its downside is that it sort of uses that as a idealism, right? It doesn't always see things as they are. It sees them idealistically, and it wears the rose-colored glasses. And so it's like, well, everything's one and everything's connected and everything's whole. And so ultimately it's good, even if there's things happening in front of you that are the opposite of that energy. Pisces doesn't really want to address that part. It would rather focus on sort of the spiritual higher aspects. And in some cases that's known as spiritual bypassing, right? When you're using spirituality to avoid what is complicated or hard in life, versus, understanding that is ultimately the truth. And yet we're here and we're experiencing things that also feel like the opposite of that. So even though there's wholeness, we feel separation. Even though there is oneness, we feel divided, right? So it's an interesting conjunction of energy. And so there is a desire at this time, a very strong desire to move into that spiritual energy. Now from the message from the team this week, and that is understanding that everybody's on a path, right? Everybody's on their own path. And ultimately, the Piscean view of it is all paths lead home, which is the truth. That is the highest spiritual truth. It doesn't really matter what path you're on. Ultimately, all paths lead back to home. Some are a straight shot home, and some are a very scenic route. It takes you a long time to get back home, but you're going to get back there. And the message from the team this week is to have grace and recognize that everybody's on their own path, even if you feel like it's the wrong path. That feeling that you're getting that that's the wrong path, what that really is trying to show you is it's the wrong path for you. And when we find our path that feels aligned to us, one of the first things we want to do is share that with other people. We want to tell everyone we found the path and this is the way back. And that's just how humanity is, right? There's a desire in us to be helpful. And if we believe we have found a solution, we want to share that with everyone. And yet, at the same time, not everyone's going to fit your path, just like you will not fit everybody else's. This is where we get into one of those juxtaposition points where it's like, how can two things also be true? If I feel like I've solved something and yet it's not the answer for everyone, that's just kind of the way it is. And so in this period right now, we're going to be feeling that spiritual call to our path. Either you're already on it and you'll feel that call strengthen and clarify, or you'll be called to something. And it's not necessarily based on anything religious. It's really based on the internal call. And what we want to be clear about when we find that call, when that call becomes very clear to us, is that our ego doesn't get activated to be like, and this is where you should go to, right? Which we see a lot in our world. We see a lot of that. I found my call. That means it's the right call. That means it should be your call. And if you're not on that, then you're on the wrong page. And that's obviously, this is where Pisces wouldn't do so well as a moderator, because Pisces just wants everyone to get along. So it wants to validate everything and sort of just be like, it's all good. And it is. And that's the irony here, is that there's two levels that are happening. One is it's all good, and the other is that one of the things that we have to address in order to sort of match these levels, so we've got our idealistic level, and then we've got our sort of mundane what's happening level. In order to get those levels to blend a little bit more, is to recognize that ultimately, yes, it is all good. Can you always stay there? No. Sometimes you have to face the fact that there's conflict, or things aren't working, or things aren't gelling with each other. And the point of that is to not just bypass it and be like, well, it's not really happening, or it does happen, but it's all fine. It's sort of understanding that if that were the case, if it was all fine, if we were just going to let this pass, then why be here? Why be physically present? Why not just stay in a non-physical form and recognize that it's all going to pass? We came here with that intention of having our experience, finding our path, and figuring out how to coexist with each other while we do it. And we did this in a very unique way. We embodied as a species who are very communal. We need each other to survive. We literally cannot survive without one another. And yet we have all this conflict and dissenting opinion, right? And different points of view, and people who feel it very voraciously that they're on the right path and that other people need to follow that. So we end up in this place where we're very conflicted, because on one hand, we just want everything to clean itself up and recognize that in the bigger picture, none of this really matters. And yet on some level, we have to contend with the fact that we keep doing this. And the basic message here is to recognize there are 1,000 pathways, probably more, home, that your unique path is perfect and the right path for you. That while we are busy trying to persuade others to join our path, we're actually off of our path, because our path is more about us moving through the process than trying to move another through the process. And to recognize that our strongest desire is to work together, and yet we're still trying to work that out. And this is where one of my favorite things that Dolores Cannon has said really comes to mind, which is, it's not my job to change your mind. It's not my job to convince you to see it my way, because then I'm trying to get you on my path. And so even as I share this message, I feel conflicted within myself, because on one hand, if I'm letting you just do your own thing and be on your path, why share the message at all? And yet I feel compelled to share the message. And so there really isn't a nice, neat little answer to tie this up with. There's only the focus that, again, if we want to create something bigger in the world energetically, if we want to create more harmony, we're going to have to recognize that that harmony means coexisting with 1,000 paths. It means that we somehow come together and work for the highest good of all people, while allowing other people to, we're going to hold different opinions, different points of view, different belief systems. We're going to see things very differently, and we're trying to learn how to honor that and honor our own point of view at the same time. So the practice is really about, how do I hold both? How do I hold steady to my own path while honoring the paths of others and taking that into consideration without letting it take anything over? I don't have to adjust what I'm doing. I don't have to adjust my beliefs. I simply need to consider that this is also a path. And by considering, I'm listening, I'm contemplating, I'm taking it in, and I'm running it through my own system of checks and balances to see whether that path aligns with me or activates me, or if I find it going, no, thank you, no. Which, once we have that, then we understand, where we can work together with someone and where we're going to be working individually, right? Where are we going to be sort of focusing on our own, and where do we work together? So that's the message that's coming through from the team right now. And now I'd like to go into the karma cards and see if they can add some clarification to this very interesting layer that the team is adding in this week. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here. The planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel what is the guidance you're looking for this week. And while you are choosing that, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for February 23rd through February 28th. And the flavor of this reading, we've got Venus, which is one of the benefic ones. So this is definitely going to be guiding us to hold things and to honor and love and work together, right? This planet wants to work together. In the sign of Aries, which is all about independence. So yet we've got juxtaposition again. And what's really interesting is currently in the sky, Venus is in Aries. And so this brings that independent, sort of headstrong, it adds more passion. Venus is already a passionate planet. Now you're adding Aries to it, which really ignites the fire. So there is, again, that juxtaposition of independence and cooperation. In the 10th house. The 10th house rules traditionally the career, but it can also mean your public standing, your reputation, and what you're putting out into the world. For those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to cherish your willpower responsibly. Again, love the path that you are on, right? And enjoy that. If you feel a sense of clarity around the direction you're heading, whether it's in your beliefs, your philosophies on life, your approach in the world, whatever it is, if that feels like you're on a path that resonates for you, it grounds you, it helps you move forward, you do you, right? Follow that path. Responsibly reminds me of the Dolores Cannon thing. It's not my job to convince you that this is the right path. It's not my job to get you over here either. I got to do what I got to do. So again, it's that I found it, this is right, this is working, and this is mine. And there's yours, and oh, over there's yours, right? So we are putting the focus where it's most powerful, and that is on what you're doing for yourself to help you be a part of this collective in the most vibrant and uplifting way. Mental action at this time: enjoy what you think you know about success. Wow, they're really kind of hitting this home. It's just, you get to, like, hey, you feel like you found what's right, enjoy that. You get to enjoy that, right? If it's bringing you peace, if it's bringing you joy and happiness, if it's lifting your spirits up, if it's helping you face, the world and everything that's going on, you follow that with your whole heart. And it's so interesting because it says what you think you know about, which is implying that there's more than what you know, which is why there are other paths, because there is more than what we know. There's, I acknowledge that there's way more than what I know, that other people are holding perspectives that would probably blow my mind open if I sat and considered it. Would it be my path? I don't know. Like I said, I have to run it through those checks and balances. But as far as what you know, if it's guiding you forward in a positive way, enjoy it for yourself. All right, physical action at this time: charm, wit, and beauty are the way to do it on your own and become a person of power and status. So really what they're saying is you lead by example and you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? So this is, again, another way of saying that you enjoying yourself, having a good life, that's really what's going to, have people look at you and go, wow, what are you doing? Because things seem to work really well for you. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders, your feet on the ground, a positive attitude, right? It's really working for you. And that's what's influential, not us shouting at each other who's right and who's wrong. It's always going to be, think about the people who've been so successful in the world that have gathered, followings of people. I'm thinking like a Tony Robbins type, right? So yes, he's out there sharing with people what he knows, but it's really like you're looking, most of the time when we look to mentors or guides, we're looking at people who are living in a way that we want to live, that are feeling connected, they're feeling good, they feel like they're full of energy, they feel like they've got a positive attitude. These generally are the people who are attracting people to follow them and sort of follow the path that they are on. And again, it's really through enjoying what you've found. So rather than comparing notes and seeing who's right or who's wrong, it's like the difference between choosing right or choosing happy. I remember that lesson, and there was a specific relationship in my life where I really failed at choosing happy. It wasn't the right combination for me, but I do remember I chose with that particular person to be right a lot, and I was right a lot, but I was also miserable because I had no peace with that person. It was always about trying to kind of get them over to the right side of behavior or the right mentality, or doing things in a way that felt more aligned for me, and it was miserable. And I was young, but I remember just thinking, man, this is not a good way to live. And I see that happening a lot in the world right now, as you still have people, and ever since we've had the internet, it's like you feel like they're all over the place. And so it's probably more exaggerated than it is, or at least that's the belief I'd like to hold. But you see a lot of people arguing that they're right and not focusing on being happy. Those people they're maybe getting a lot of attention, but there's not a lot of people who want to follow that path. So rather, we're being asked to really, what's your path? Does it light you up? Does it ground you? Does it give you hope? Does it create positive forward momentum in your life? If it does, the whole point is to enjoy that. Like it's a good road for you to take, rather than trying to influence people to join you on that road. All right, so now let's look at outcomes for Venus in Aries in the 10th house of what we put out in the world. The spiritual outcome at this time is the attraction of energies to meet the challenge of your destiny. And what an interesting way to put that, the challenge of your destiny. Well, our destiny, there's a lot of ways to look at that, but I often see it as your greatest potential, which your greatest potential will challenge you. If it was so easy to attain your greatest potential, you'd just be there. So in order to achieve our destiny, our greatest potential, we will be challenged. And by focusing on, this is the right path for me, this is what lights me up, this is what gets me going, this is what gives me strength. As we focus on that, we are blessed with the energies to meet the challenges that will allow us to evolve into our highest potential. Right, mental outcome at this time, pleasure from your desires regarding where you are going. I like this because it blends with the path metaphor so well. Where are you going? What is your path taking you to? Not, rather than just focusing on this path that you're on, what do you believe it's taking you to? So if I believe I'm on the path of ascension, of the highest timeline, and I believe what it's taking me to is a higher version of Earth where we have more all consciously evolved, and we've moved past the pettiness of separation and are now working more collectively and working for the highest good, recognizing that your win is my win is your win. And so instead of trying to individually gather wins, we are collectively creating wins. That's where my path is going, and that's what you can take pleasure in. So again, more messages about this destination, right? Really asking yourself to not just consider how you want things to be right now, that's the path, but where is it taking you? Where is that taking you? Because if you trust this path that you are on, for example, the one I just shared with you, then my destination is one where many people get there and many people are working towards it. And I never said at what point that they're all on my path. I believe that I'm going to meet them there, and they're going to get there from wherever they're coming from, right? We all need a specific route. It's like we're going up a mountain together, and some of us start at the base camp that's on the western side of the mountain, some start on the eastern, some at the north or the southeast or wherever. But we're all taking these trails, and we're all going to meet at this peak. And that's how I see it. So it doesn't matter, like you're on the mountain already, like I'll meet you up there. And that's where it's asking us to focus, and that'll bring you even more joy or satisfaction or feeling of contentment. Physical outcome at this time, good times resulting from the honesty and strength of your career. And again, in the 10th house, they focus a lot on the career, but it really is whatever you're putting out in the world, right? So the honesty and strength. And again, I feel like if you put the whole message together, that honesty and strength comes from recognizing that it resonates for you and that you can enjoy that. So if someone's telling you right now that your path is wrong and you can't enjoy it, you can just take a deep breath, thank them for their opinion, and dismiss it, right? Like you just take it with a grain of salt, and you recognize that this is a person who is trying to control outcomes or trying to control situations, and it has nothing to do with me or my own path. It has to do with the way that they are viewing that idea that I have my own path, right? That's actually not about me. It's about them. So if somebody is trying to shake your tree right now and tell you you're doing this wrong, just do your best to pause, send them love, and recognize there's just no point in arguing. You're never going to win that. They're never going to win that. You're never going to succeed that this path that feels aligned for you should get off of. And if you do, then it all it means is that you're not confident in what you've chosen, and maybe there's an element missing, right? Maybe it isn't bringing you the fulfillment that you want it to, or maybe it isn't grounding you as much as you want it to. And that is simply information. It doesn't make you wrong. It just means something's missing. I wonder what that is. I wonder if there is a better path for me. But if you do feel like you're in alignment and it grounds you, and again, it gives you positive energy, it gives you hope, it moves you forward, it gives you a sense of purpose, all of that is a really good indicator that you are on your path. And there are people out there who will not agree with it. And just like you won't agree with every path you see. And we got to remember, on an individual level, it's not my job to change your mind. Right? I'm not going to go yell at people. If I'm on the western side of the mountain, I'm not going to go try and shout at the people, on the eastern side that you're on the wrong side of the mountain. It would take so much energy and effort. when I could just trust that maybe there's a path over there that's going to get them up there. This one's working for me. This is the one I know of, and this is the one I want to take, right? So hopefully this message resonates for you, and it gives you some sense of grounding or peace in a time where a lot of people shout loudly about which way we should go. Just understand that we're all trying to do the same thing. That's the irony, is that we're all trying to get to home. We're trying to find that place that feels resonant and wonderful and balanced and safe. It's just some people are focused externally rather than focusing on what their path is calling them to do. And on some paths, I would even say that maybe it calls you to go tell everybody to be on that path. Okay, but that doesn't mean that that's the path that's going to work for you. So I hope you enjoyed this very convoluted message of karma cards. Thanks to the Piscean energy. Let me know in the comments below, were you able to follow what I was putting out? Because it felt, as I was recording it, very loose. Like there's a lot of Neptunian influence here. That's the planet that rules Pisces. So it feels a little more abstract than direct. But hopefully it got a good point across. So let me know in the comments if you dig it or if you don't. And of course, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to know the next time I do karma cards, because right now karma cards are kind of coming out like 2 at a time or a little bit. There's something going on with my flow here. So if you want to just know when the next one's coming, hit the notification bell. And until the next karma cards, I am sending you so much love. Mwah.